All right, we're live.
All right. Welcome everyone to our DeFi and Oracles live stream. We've got a full panel today, including Sasha from API3, Paul N from Band Protocol, Paul C from DIA, and Eric from Injective. So thanks for being here today with us, guys. We all share an interest in building an open source community and expanding the Oracle ecosystem. So let's start things off by having each of you give a little bit of background about yourselves. We'll start with Sasha and then move on to Paul N, Paul C, and then Eric.
Do you want me just to introduce myself or the project as well?
Just start by introducing yourself and background, and then later on we'll move on to that.
Okay, sure. I'm Sasha. I'm one of the co-founders of API3. I also work on research and development. My background, I studied computer science in school and worked as a software engineer and a data scientist for a couple of years before, I guess, doing the same thing in crypto now.
Yeah. So I think it's my turn. Hi, everyone. My name is Paul. I'm one of the co-founders at DIA. DIA, is a decentralized Oracle. We'll come to that later. At DIA, I'm responsible for business development. So my team and I are basically identifying customers, understanding their specific needs, and ensuring that our product is answering the current and future needs. So I myself have a background in finance and management, started my career in investment banking, PE. That's luckily some time ago. Yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Paul. I'm a Chief Product Officer and co-founder at Band Protocol. So I started off my career as software engineer. So I have computer science by education, and sort of as an extension to that, I did create apps and a lot of projects in blockchain back in 2014, 15, 17, right? And then, once you sort of get into blockchain more and more, I co-founded and I sort of identify this common problem of an Oracle. So that's why we started Band Protocol a few years back. And, it's been going on ever since.
Hey guys, this is Eric from Injective Protocol. And so we've been working on a fully decentralized derivatives exchange for a while. And before that, I was working on hedge funds deploy market neutral strategies and also a lot of blockchain research.
Great, thanks everyone. Next, it would be great to learn more about the oracles on our panel today and what makes them unique. So let's start off with Paul C this time and then move on to Sasha, other Paul, and then yeah, thanks.
Cool. Thanks for the honor to kick this off. Hannah, Eric, want to thank you guys for setting this up. We really value, obviously, our competitors, so it's great to have everyone here, I guess, in one room. And I mean, we just believe that through competition, one is providing a great product. So I think everybody is pushing each other here. And apart from that, we don't believe in any tribalism and see the overall ecosystem. There's a great advantage in having the choice of oracles and hence reducing systematic risks. So would be horrible if we would be the only provider or one of the guys here, girls. So something unthinkable in traditional finance. So just thanks for getting everyone here in one room. This should happen much more often. So, but let me highlight a bit of obviously some of the uniquenesses we see we're building at DIA. So DIA is a DAO governed oracle. So similar to what Paul just said, we also built this out of a need at some point in time because we didn't find an oracle solution that made us happy for the product we were building. And in this process, we understood that oracles are a very integral part of the infrastructure, and hence also the governance shouldn't be centralized. So this led us to the DAO structure. And we go even a step beyond that, I guess, as our product also relies on a large group of contributors that are adding new data sources and do a bunch of other things. And this makes us this makes us really transparent and at the same time efficient and enables us to scale fast. So looking a bit more at the technical differences, we early on believed in a cross-chain ecosystem and hence are sourcing and providing data not only from N2 Ethereum L1, but also to a bunch, BSC, Polygon, XDAI, Polkadot, Moonbeam, just to name a few integrations. And so last thing I want to add is when it comes to data quality, I believe we provide data feeds of the highest fidelity because they're based on trade level, volume weighted. So we provide complete transparency on actually where the data comes from and what has been done with it. And together with IBM, we are sanitizing that data in confidential computing environments that ensure that data integrity. Yeah, I mean, I could go on for hours on technical aspects where I believe we provide an amazing product, but want to hand over to my fellow panelists here, not to steal the time.
Great, thanks, Paul. Sasha, you can go next if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to reiterate what Paul said. Thank you so much for organizing the panel. I think things like this should happen more often as well. Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So one thing I'd like to say is that API3 doesn't claim to be solving the Oracle problem as a whole. What we focus on is arguably a subset of the Oracle problem. So if you need, or one of our theses is if you need certain kinds of specialized data that's provided by an API provider, having the API provider themselves transmit that data directly to the blockchain is just more secure and cost efficient, since you're removing a layer of third parties, which just adds an attack surface area and also adds costs because you're adding unnecessary redundancy. And it's typically true that you implicitly trust the data source you're querying in the first place. So we sort of just leverage that trust. Like if you're trusting the data coming from that data source, we might as well, if you can, get that data source to run an Oracle because you're just leveraging your trust in that data source. And I also want to be clear, there's some misunderstanding online about our project. We're not providing like single oracles for single data sources. Like data is aggregated on chain. It's just that node operators are API providers themselves. And I could probably go long into this, but let me just mention two other aspects of our design. One of them is insured data feeds, because the type of data provided by oracles in general has no on-chain gold standards. There's situations where you simply can't detect a faulty oracle at the time of report, and I can get into details later. So we decided on having insurance as one of our security features. So this deals with like on-chain decentralized arbitration. Like if someone detects after it happened, so there's like a 1-2 week period. If there was a malicious input to your smart contract that cost you money, you can actually make like an on-chain insurance dispute. So that's one other aspect, insured data feeds, and another one is DAOs. So I think Paul already kind of said why DAOs are good, but I firmly believe that any complex protocol requires a DAO. So if you have a protocol that has a lot of parameters, a lot of moving pieces, it's unlikely that it's just going to function perfectly indefinitely. Like parameters need to be updated. You need to sometimes change some of these moving pieces. Basically, you need a human in the loop with complex projects and complex protocols, and that just, in my opinion, necessitates a DAO so that you have end-to-end decentralization, so that any kind of change to parameters is done in a decentralized way and not in a centralized way. So yeah, so first party API provider run oracles, insured data feeds, and decentralized governance. Those are, I guess, the three pieces I want to highlight.
All right. For us at BAN, we actually look at Oracle problem as the situation where decentralized application actually wants to use some data that is available outside of the blockchain, right? And for us, the way to solve it is to have someone bring it over, right? So we can argue as to who would be the best person to do it. But for us, what we favor most would be the flexibility on the developer side. So whatever API that's available out there, we believe that should be able to be brought over to the blockchain, right? So the question then becomes, how do we create like a system and a decentralized system, a decentralized protocol that coordinates that, action of bringing the data to the blockchain? And that's how sort of band product comes together, right? So for us, the mechanic for coordinating multiple data feeders or our node the data providers is to use an independent blockchain built based on Cosmos SDK. We call it Bandchain. So it's actually being powered by the same technology that Injective use, right? And what it allows us to do is actually, if you are a developer, right, wanting to say get the data from Yahoo Finance, for example, you can create a custom Oracle script on the Bandchain. And then, we have economic guarantee that whenever the developer requests the data from that script, the node operators will, pull the data, be randomly selected to pull the data from, executing that script, pull the data from Yahoo Finance API, right? And then take that data on chain. And then we can send those data to multiple blockchain like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Phantom, right? Or Icon, or the platform that we support, right? And by doing so, basically we are trying to create like a flexible ecosystem where you can like multiple parties can become participant in here, and Band Protocol is essentially just trying to make sure that nobody is cheating.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for the introductions. Of course, the thought on many of our minds is competitiveness in the Oracle space. How do you see this ecosystem evolving? And do you think that multiple Oracle solutions can coexist and thrive together, or do you see this more as a winner takes all market? Anyone who wants to start? Sasha, it looks like you have an answer, so go ahead.
I definitely, it's something I've thought about. That's why I'm like so eager to answer it. I definitely think there's going to be multiple Oracle solutions in the future, and it's not some like UN politician kind of answer. Like I genuinely believe it. I think right now the Oracle space looks so competitive because all the data being provided by Oracles and data feeds right now is price data for DeFi. And if all you think about is price data, it's like, wow, this is a super competitive space. Everyone's trying to, get price data feeds. But for me, and I think a lot of people in the space, especially a lot of people that I talk to, the thing that excites me about blockchain isn't just cryptocurrency. Like I think having sound money is great, but I'm really interested in like what's coming next. So like peer-to-peer business deals, peer-to-peer legal-like contracts, things like deeds, like really allowing people to do business with each other without relying on middlemen. And in order to actually have these kinds of contracts that replace the existing infrastructure, whether that's kind of things you see in law or in governance or insurance, you're going to need a lot of different types of data. Like just insurance alone, like that's going to require all sorts of different types of data. And I always talk high level. So just some examples, like there's numerical data, there's non-numerical data, there's discrete data, continuous data, data that's available to anyone online. And there's data that's storehoused in centralized locations, things that needs to be private, things that don't need to be private. Like I don't think we, including myself, have fully conceptualized all the different types of data that future blockchain applications will need. And I think it's just inevitable that there's going to be solutions that are optimized for different types of data. And just quickly, there is a precedent for this, like in Web 2.0 and in the off-chain world. So for example, there's not one social media website. There's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and they're more similar than they are different, but they're optimized in different ways such that they serve different use cases. Like there's a reason why crypto Twitter is on Twitter and not on Instagram. Like there's something about these different services and the way that they're optimized in different ways that are better for certain use cases. And I think that's the same thing is going to happen with the future Oracle ecosystem. Like right now, it's just price feeds, so it looks competitive. But I think in the future, it's inevitable that one solution isn't going to serve all the different types of data that future blockchain applications will need. That's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of things to add here. I mean, not only as you're saying, there are more than just data use cases. I think already today, when each of one of us described a bit how they're tackling the Oracle problem or how they perceive to be a problem and how the solution looks, I think these approaches are fairly different. Obviously, they all cater to the need of having data on-chain, but the way this is achieved differs, and this is for different application use cases beneficial. At the same time, we're looking now not only at, let's say, the DeFi market as a core target group, which primarily needs pricing data. I mean, we're just here like in an inception stage, how fast this market is growing, but how it will also intersect with what we call traditional finance or fintech. I mean, it's just different stacks being used in potentially different regulation. It will somehow merge. And what oracles actually provide today, the immutability of data is something I think this technology will be also used in traditional finance. It's kind of surprising that databases which can be altered are the basis for benchmark providers to bring data to using ETF. So everything will somehow merge. Hence, the market will grow. Our current market is growing. And when you compare the amount of oracles to different L1s and scaling solutions, it's actually a surprising little group of people focusing on that space. So long answer, I guess, on I'm also a firm believer in the need of more than one oracle, which at some point will be even, I guess, a requirement by the regulators, as in traditional markets, where you just can't rely for structural reasons on one party. It just makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do, agree. Totally, right? So I think one key value proposition that decentralized application actually gives to the users is, the robustness, right? The fact that it's very, very difficult to fail. And a lot of times you would find, Oracle are as being, some of the most critical component in any, decentralized application system. Right? And obviously using just one Oracle solution is incredibly risky, right? So internally, when we talk to customer or users who use banned Oracle, we are also exploring with them on what would be the best way for them in order to bring most robustness to their Oracle system, right? And oftentimes it involves using multiple Oracle solutions. And in the future, I would bet that it will be one of the standard sort of template question that all the DAOs will have, right? Which what are some of the oracles that we will use, and what are the method for aggregating the data for those oracle in order to make sure the most robustness for for the protocol.
Great, thanks, guys. This next question is for Eric. Injective has been continuously creating innovative derivatives markets. Could you tell us a little bit more about the role that oracles play as you look to introduce new crypto and synthetic derivatives markets? And it would also be great if you could speak more about the Injective Data Alliance.
Yeah, so I would say that currently, like for derivative open interests, the security and the value of the open interest ties directly with the oracle itself and the security of it. So that means that whenever there's a market that maintains a open interest of $1 billion, then the oracle is probably worth $1 billion, simply put. Because any type of deviation from the market price or settlement price, or even a complete hack or I would say, a bug within the Oracle system will create a fundamental kind of like a default within the entire market infrastructure. So I would say, obviously, it's not the market that makes the Oracle, it's more the Oracle that makes the market itself. So I think that's why having a decentralized, having a multi-source, and most importantly, having a secure Oracle system that aligns with the best and brightest minds in crypto is extremely key to us, because in order for Injective to really become a secure and fully decentralized derivative protocol, I would say that you definitely need to have secure oracles from not just one source, and the oracles with a long track record of backing and supporting billions and billions of value being transferred.
Thanks, Eric. Paul N. From Band, congratulations on your collaboration with Google. I'm sure everyone in the audience is very familiar with Google and Google Cloud. Could you explain how Band is working with Google Cloud and specifically BigQuery? What does this mean for developers and DeFi enthusiasts moving forward who will be using Band?
Yeah, so before mentioning the BigQuery and the collaboration itself, right? Let me mention that we have been working with the Google Cloud team quite closely because of the way we structure our Band chain, our blockchain. Obviously, we want to work with them to make sure our nodes are like secure, and been advocating for the data providers to use the robust infrastructure that they provide, right? So the collaboration sort of went from there, and we were exploring like now that we have like really high quality data, especially like on the price feed on Band chain, right? We have close to 200 pairs or symbols of price feeds on Band standard data set, right? How do we make sure that we extend the usability beyond just providing the data to the blockchain? And the sort of conclusion that we came together is resulting in like a project where we bring the data on Band chain and make it available on Google BigQuery. Right, and essentially what it does is that it allows traditional, internet company now to access this data, right, and on an infrastructure that is built specifically for those data to be consumed. And one example that we did together and then published together is to use Band price data in machine learning model running on Google Cloud infrastructure, right? It is an anomaly detection model. For example, if you want to detect like a price spike and see if you are like in a volatile market condition, in order to trigger some business logic that you already have running on Google Cloud platform, right? You can use like follow the example and basically build up from there, right? So it's in an early stage of experimentation, but like what's really exciting about this is that it actually presents like a really huge opportunity for us, where we know that the demand for high quality data that is verifiable from trusted sources are extremely valuable for blockchain application, right? But not only that, it's also extremely valuable for traditional company as well. So the next step for us is to sort of explore further into what are some of the use cases that we can expand using this newly available technology, newly available data on the Google Cloud platform. And we probably have like updates, multiple updates in the next few months coming up. So really excited for this.
Awesome, thanks, Paul. Previously, smart contracts and blockchains were not able to connect to external systems. Obviously, the existence of oracles changes this and propels the blockchain industry forward as a whole. However, some issues still remain, such as slow transaction times and limited data pipelines. How do your projects aim to tackle these challenges moving forward? Does anyone want to start?
I can continue.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Paul. See.
All right.
So yeah. So sorry.
Sorry.
Which Paul?
We'll start with Paul from DIA, then move on to Paul.
Okay,
you can
cool.
go next.
I'll keep it short and hand over. So I mean, when you're referring to solving the first issue, connecting data to a blockchain, yeah, check mark. Now the problem appears, okay, the way how we do this right now, does it actually cater to all the applications use cases? That's kind of the question, if the Oracle can compete with an API speed. I think that's not really what it needs to do. But what we already have today is that there are multiple L1 options or scaling L2 options, which have much faster and more efficient transaction, maybe with a lower level of decentralization and security, but really use case specific. And we, as we believe in this cross-chain universe, are integrated into them. So if you are building a dApp which requires a high frequency, it's pretty likely that Ethereum L1 is not the best solution for what you're looking into. So I think this is actually something which is already being addressed in quite a good way, and we see this with a lot of projects now migrating or already starting on a more performant, maybe more centralized L1. We're providing data feeds to those applications. So I think it's partially, at least for the time being, solved. I guess this will change with Ethereum and other solutions, becoming more scalable in themselves.
I can add something. Yeah, I agree with what Paul said. But I just want to add like my own hot take, I guess. When people talk about speed on the blockchain, I think they're usually comparing it to traditional finance and things like high frequency trading. But the thing with the blockchain is there's like an inherent trade-off between speed and decentralization. Like running something on a centralized server is always going to be faster than running something on a network that then has to come to consensus about something. So I feel like that trade-off just exists. And if you want decentralized applications, you're going to have to understand they're a little bit slower than, you know, high frequency trading with those fiber optics or whatever they do. And I don't even think it's a bad thing. Like if the speed in which the financial system moves is slowed down a bit on the blockchain, like it's hard to predict what that means, but I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. And I don't see things being slower when they're decentralized as being necessarily a negative thing. That's just my take on speed on the blockchain.
I think Sasha brought up a really good point on the speed of the blockchain and how it sort of correlates to the level of security that blockchain ecosystem can provide. Obviously, like my take on that would be as we move forward in the time span of the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to see more and more sort of consensus sort of algorithm and new techniques to make sure the block time is being reduced by considerable margin, right? And at the same time still have a high enough level of security. At then what we try to do is to not try to predict what is going to happen and try to make sure that our solution actually support them all. And that's why we sort of compartmental, try to bring our Oracle ecosystem into our own blockchain, and by doing so, we can now support blockchain that is relatively slow, like Ethereum, or a little bit faster like Binance Smart Chain, or even faster like Solana. And yeah, our take on that is that different blockchain, we have different use cases with different security parameters, and our job here is to make sure to support them all in the way that is most secure and verifiable.
Great. Paul C., I noticed that Dia has started to work with a number of different layer ones. We've seen your collaboration with Moonbeam, which helps to bridge Polkadot. We also saw that you started to collaborate with BSC. Can you speak more about your goals behind cross-chain data access, and what other layer ones might you be looking into?
Yeah, I mean, as I guess mentioned multiple times now, we believe in a cross-chain ecosystem. I think we just discussed this, that there are different L1s and scaling solutions to cater to different purposes. And we actually, I think we see something like in traditional finance, there's like some real settlement layer, which Ethereum might become, and then you have different scaling solutions or different L1s who sacrifice, as discussed, on the level of decentralization versus efficiency. We believe that that already today we see a bunch of great solutions there, and we want to ensure that they can all rely on data which has extremely high fidelity. So no matter if a scaling solution might take over the role of L1s, which I believe is not driven by technology, but rather by community, or if we see ETH 2.0 contracting back a lot of applications to Ethereum, we're ensuring that a DApp or client, for example, catering to regulated financial institutions, can ingest our data, and we ensure that the data is accessible in a trustworthy, transparent, and immutable way wherever it is needed. So yeah, for this reason, we are pushing the integrations in all these potential data usage environments quite, yeah, with a strong focus. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Sasha, I saw that API3 has some unique features when it comes to staking, especially as it pertains to your staking insurance pool. Could you tell us a little bit more about this process and how it helps to further secure the data provided by API3?
Yeah, so I mentioned the insurance pool earlier. So there's a lot of like technicalities with that I guess I can cover later if people are interested. But interestingly enough, I was rereading a book that I think a lot of people in the crypto space are familiar with, Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb, last night for like a book club, completely unrelated to this. But I was rereading the part about skin in the game and people that are making decisions should have skin in the game. And that is what staking is ultimately about. So, I mean, staking started with proof of stake, which was a replacement for proof of work. And it's essentially a security mechanism. And I say this because I'm sure people here know, but we get messages in the API3 Telegram all the time about like when staking, of course, but also things like, also things like, well, our stake can get slashed. Like, why would I want to participate in staking if my staking gets slashed? And people, I guess, especially in a bull market, people forget that staking is primarily a security mechanism. It's not a way to make infinite money risk-free. Like, I really get the sense that some people think this. So the reason why we have staking is a security mechanism. So first of all, we need a pool of money to provide insurance. Because we have an insurance product, the money has to come from somewhere. So people stake in the insurance pool, and they're incentivized to do this because the supply of API3 inflates. But all that inflated money is proportionally given to stakers. So if you're staking, inflation doesn't actually affect you, if you get what I mean. And then that staking percentage is, what's the word? It depends on how much money. There's a parameter that affects the inflation rate that's dependent on how much money we need in the insurance pool. And this is a parameter that the DAO votes on. And getting back to the skin in the game thing, if you're a member of the API3 DAO, that means that you have staked your money. So basically, you not your money, your API3 token. So you stake API3 in the insurance pool, and you get a proportional amount of voting power. So anyone that's in the DAO, if anyone's a voting member of the API3 DAO, it means they have money staked, which means that they participate in the risk and the rewards of the system. So anyone that's making any decisions, making proposal, voting, they have their tokens staked and locked. And also rewards are locked for a year, which some people are upset about, but that's an incentive that's there to make sure that people care about the long-term growth of the long-term future of the project. So let me see if I actually answered your question. Great about the process. Yeah, so it's staking. We're going back to like what staking means originally, and it's a security mechanism that's based on skin in the game, and that's kind of, I guess, a rough overview of how our staking mechanism works and why it's there. It's not there for frivolous reasons. There's a good reason for why we have staking in our system.
Great, thanks so much, Sasha. Eric, congratulations on the new listing on Gemini and being a $1 billion valuation project. We've seen impressive technical progress when it comes to smart contracts and oracles. What are some shifts that we can find in this development? DeFi is also shaping the redefining of smart contracts. How does DeFi act as a catalyst and accelerate the improvement of smart contracts and oracles?
Yeah, so I think obviously it's been an exciting time for Injective, and obviously I'm extremely excited to launch, the Injective Data Alliance, which allows us to onboard more and more Oracle, not just from the Cosmos side, but also from the Ethereum side, and bring over that data from the Ethereum layer onto Injective chain. And obviously, Ethereum being a blockchain with a lot more security rested upon and a lot more value logged. It's definitely one of the most secure outlets for data, and with a lot more, obviously, Oracle projects built on top of it. So a lot of our technical effort around Oracle has been surrounding the fact that we need to snapshot a lot of the contract targeted states and basically bring it over to Injective chain and kind of like having it as an available data to be pulled from and used to be secured, securing our contracts. And obviously, BAN is working on some exciting IBC Stargate integrations. And since we are Stargate compatible at this point, so it does make it very easy for us to bridge over BAN data. So that's always been fun. And yeah, so in terms of like looking forward, we've been extremely conservative with the way we go about launching mainnet. We want to make sure that as a layer one, we have the most secure possible deployment and launch. And so that's why we've been working tirelessly to make sure that the overall mainnet launch process will be as secure as possible, given the amount of community interest and all the traction around it. Because as an example, for the current incentivized testnet, I believe we briefly reached $50 million TVL just for the testnet itself, and it's going to be much bigger than that for the mainnet. So that's definitely something to look forward to.
Great. Well, that wraps up my questions. Thank you, everyone, for your answers and insights. I'll open the floor up for the four of you to talk to each other. Feel free to elaborate on any answers you've given so far or discuss anything that we may have missed today. Or if that's it, we've had a great conversation so far. So thanks so much, guys, again for being here, and to all our viewers for tuning in. I can't wait to see the Oracle's ecosystem grow and see what you guys do next.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Excited
Thank
to
you for
collaborate
really
further.
good questions.
Bye.
No problem. Take care, guys.